Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My mom has been a largely disappointing person my entire life. At this point, I'm used to it. I didn't even think she can cross more boundaries than she already has, but she never fails to surprise me with her entitled behavior. My dad bolted on me and my mother when I was just 3 years old. Ever since then, she has been a single mother. As you can probably imagine, it was not an easy task raising a child as a single mother. My mom was not really perfect. I don't know why my dad left, and I know that he is wrong for abandoning, but I know that it has a lot to do with how my mom lived her life. She was unpredictable and most likely unfaithful to my dad. Anyways, that's all in the past now. There is no point in talking about it. I got through school and worked really hard for a scholarship to college because I knew that there was no way that my mom would be able to afford a college education for me. Even during my course, my mom constantly kept saying that I'm wasting my time and that people from our family don't get degrees. Luckily, I managed to get a full scholarship and graduated college 2 years ago. I was also fortunate enough to land a good job and have been living in my own apartment for the last 2 years as well. I chose to completely cut off all contact with my mom during this time because I didn't need her negativity. Oh, I forgot to mention that I moved out of home after college and now live in a different city than my hometown. My relationship with my mother has been challenging to say the least. She has always been super irresponsible with money, and I had to work two jobs, even as a high school student, to be able to finance my personal expenses because she would not give me a cent. That's all in the past, though. As I have grown up, I have come to peace with how my mom is, and I really thought that we could move past all the troubles and have a better relationship. But my mom has again shown me that she cannot be trusted with anything at all. Around 3 weeks ago, I was about to go to work one day when I heard the doorbell ring. This was unexpected because anyone who knows me knows that I am off to work at sharp 9 a.m. And it was around 9:30 at the time. I was only home because I had forgotten some important papers and had to come back home from work to pick them up. Anyway, I opened the door and guess who I saw? None other than my mother. It was so unexpected to see her, and I almost didn't recognize her for a few seconds. She also looked pretty rough. She had lost a lot of weight, and her hair was just all over the place. She saw me and was like, "Hey, stranger." I didn't know how I felt about her just randomly showing up at my door, but I still hugged her and welcomed her in. I was getting really late for work and I could not stay a minute longer, but I told her she could make herself comfortable and I'll be back as soon as possible. Let's just say she made herself a bit too comfortable, but I'm coming back to that later. So I come back from work earlier than usual because the entire day I could not stop worrying about my mom and why she suddenly decided to show up at my place. I came back home and found her in the living room watching TV. I sat down and we had an awkward conversation about how we both had been the last 2 years and stuff. Eventually, I just could not ignore the elephant in the room. I finally asked my mom what she was doing here and if everything was all right. And she told me that she was going through a really rough time. Apparently, the man she had been seeing for the last 3 years had cheated on her and gotten engaged to someone else. She told me that she had no place to live and would really appreciate it if I let her stay at my place until she got back on her feet. She promised me that she would not overstay her welcome, and at max, she would stay for a few weeks. I knew that it would be longer than that. In fact, I could have guaranteed that it's impossible to say when my mom would finally leave my place, but I just could not say no to her. I told her that I am sorry for whatever happened to her and that, yeah, she could definitely stay at my place as long as we give each other space and she does not interfere with my life. She thanked me again and again and told me that she would not cause any trouble. Only if that were true. The first few weeks were fine, I guess. It was a bit annoying because my mom is just a very messy person and I'm the opposite of that. So I would often come back in the evening to find the place messy. The only thing that was not messy was my office space and my room. Oh, I guess I forgot to mention that for my job, I often used to work from home in my home office, but since my mom came over, I just wanted to avoid seeing her as much as possible, so I started spending longer hours in the office. It went to a point where by the second week, I left the house at around 9 a.m. as usual, but came back very late at night, around 9:30, and went directly back to sleep. I know that that was not really a solution to my problem. But for the first few weeks, I just wanted to avoid my mom as much as possible. Also, it did not help that she kept asking me questions about my life whenever I was around her. After 3 whole weeks of spending almost all my time at work, I came home one day to find a random man sleeping on a fold-out couch in my office. I almost let out a scream in shock. The very little furniture I had in my room was not there. I was on the verge of calling 911, thinking that it was some crazy guy who had broken in, when I noticed that there were a few moving boxes in the room. This was bizarre. I quietly walked out with my phone still in my hand when I walked into my mom peacefully watching TV in the living room. I was like, "Mom, are you aware that there's a random man sleeping in my office?" She shrugged and said, "That's Peter, and he is our new tenant." I was dumbfounded. Was she drunk? I asked her what the hell she meant by that, and she told me that since I'm rarely home and never use that room, she decided to put out an ad on Craigslist and rent out my office room because she needed some extra cash. Honestly, I was just in disbelief. I couldn't even be mad at that point. I asked her if she had lost her mind. She shrugged and said that I shouldn't even be bothered because I'm hardly ever in the house. I took a deep breath and went to the guest room where all my mom's stuff was. I packed it up, put everything in a huge trash bag, and dumped it in the living room. I took one more look at her and told her to get the hell out of my house. I went to wake the person sleeping in my office and told him he needs to leave because I'm the apartment owner, and he was given the room without my permission. The poor guy was really, really confused but almost ran out of the room. My mom obviously threw a fit and refused to leave. I took the bag of her stuff and threw it out of the door and told her that if she doesn't leave, I would call the police. That was 4 days ago. My mom has apparently been living in a shelter since then. She has told me that I'm basically the worst person in the universe and has been trying to guilt trip me into letting her move back in. I still stand by my decision. AITA here? Oh my God, I keep getting calls from people who have seen my mom's ad listing on Craigslist. I guess she still hasn't taken it off and replaced her number with mine. I called her up to take it down, but she refuses to do so. I'm so annoyed. I'm going to try to find the listing and try to take it down somehow. My mom keeps saying she'll only take it down if I let her move back in with me, but that's not something I'm comfortable with at all. The ad is down. Last week was so annoying because I kept getting calls from random men. I thought it was really weird that I was only getting calls from men. When I finally came across the ad, guess what I saw? The listing said that we're only looking for a male roommate. I'm sure my mom only did that to spite me and annoy me. I confronted her about it and she said that I deserved that because of how I have treated my own mother. My mom asked me to book her a one-way flight to our hometown. She said she doesn't want to keep staying in shelters. At this point, I just wanted to get rid of her, so I agreed and got her a ticket. She left this morning and I'm just glad it's over. NTA, is your mom crazy? I don't even know what I would do in your situation. Not only did she just randomly show up in your life without a warning, but she invited a random person to literally live in your house. I hope you asked him to give the key back in case your mom took it upon herself to give him access to your home. Don't give a single thought to your mom, OP. NTA, your mom deserves to be in a shelter after what she did. The delusion and the entitlement is just out of this world. You were too kind to her in the first place, I feel. Because of my work, I, female, 37, temporarily moved to the US with my family, my husband, Adrian, male, 38, and my daughter, Maura, female, 10. We're only going to be living here for the next few months, so we enrolled our daughter into an international school so she doesn't have to change her curriculum. It's important to note that my husband is Chilean, I am Polish, and our daughter is obviously both, and she speaks both Spanish and Polish as well as English because we normally live in London. With that out of the way, we moved into our new house a little while ago. Our neighbor has a little girl around Maura's age, and they've become friends quickly. I've only met the mom a few times, but she seemed lovely enough. Anyway, a few days ago, I was reading a book on my porch when I saw my neighbor, Leah, pulling into her driveway. When she saw me, she motioned at me to wait for her, so I put on my flip-flops and came over to help carry her groceries while she tells me whatever she wanted to tell me. She started the conversation normally, but then quickly turned into what she heard the girls talking about when they were playing yesterday at her house. And she was appalled. Her words, not mine. Apparently, the girls were playing with Barbies. Yes, my 10-year-old still plays with them occasionally. The appalling thing my daughter did was not call her family doll's grandmother. Instead, she called them abuela and babcia, hence the mention of Maura's background earlier. One being Spanish for grandmother, the other Polish. That's how she calls her grandmothers. And Maura's new friend asked why, and Maura explained it. And as kids, they continued playing. Leah was distraught at the idea that my child doesn't call her grandmothers grandmas or nans or whatever else you'd call them in the US. I tried to politely explain to her our reasoning, but she went on a tangent about how I am ruining my daughter's future by messing up with her head, threatening to call CPS on me. Yeah, she really said that. And that I am trying to brainwash her daughter into changing how she calls her grandparents. WTF? Anyway, I hate wasting my time on arguments, and she clearly wasn't in the right state of mind. I put the groceries down, told her, "Have a lovely day," and walked back to my house. I thought she might realize later what she's done was wrong, but no. She started telling all my new neighbors about the situation, and she tried confronting me again. I told her to drop it and mind her own business, but she wouldn't stop. I eventually called her a stupid twat and told her to never talk to me again. In the twist of event, it seems some of my neighbors think I am the a-hole for calling her that. I'm confused. I didn't think calling someone a twat would be much of an issue, but here we are. AITA for that? NTA, you just found an American racist. They say they are a melting pot, multicultural and whatever, but they believe anyone who speaks more than one language is evil and want people to be as uneducated as they are. And if your daughter is slightly exotic, they will have a problem. Personally, I think you were right about calling her that, but neighbors are the same thing, so they will, of course, defend her. Get out of there fast. NTA. LOL, this is funny. CPS? Whoa, that's going nuclear. I'd like to hear that complaint. And the response from your attorney. She's weird. People in the USA use all sorts of names for grandparents, mostly because grandparents don't want to feel old. So they have their grandkids call them all sorts of foreign names for grandparents or just outright make up some name to feel special. NTA, I'm extremely confused by your neighbor's behavior. I'm English, by the way, but she is calling them grandma or nan or whatever, but in their native tongue. I would assume it would be more confusing for your husband's mom or your mom to suddenly be called nan when they've been called the respective counterparts in their languages. She sounds very ignorant at least. My 7-year-old son was having a birthday party the previous weekend, and a number of his friends and schoolmates around his age came over, along with their parents. I have a male mastiff mix, for context. I know people always love to exaggerate and say their dog is so loving regardless of whatever their dog's true personality is. My dog is friendly towards my family and people he's familiar with, but he's very aloof towards strangers. He doesn't bark towards strangers, but will have a low growl if he's patted, touched without the proper introduction. So anyway, for the party, I decided the best solution was to have him kept upstairs on the second, third floor with a dog gate installed at the stairs. The party will be confined to the first floor and the garden. Halfway through the party, my son and his 2 friends wanted to go upstairs to see my dog. These 2 friends have come over to my house frequently, and 3 of them have spent unsupervised time around my dog without any incidents for the past 2 years. They are very aware of the rules and boundaries I've set. They can go play fetch and stuff with him, but they are never to play with his tail or face or try to sit on him. Another boy, let's call him B, and his mom apparently heard that my dog was upstairs and wanted to head up too. I said, nope, sorry, my dog doesn't play too well with people he doesn't know, and I can't be around upstairs all the time. B's mom insisted that it will be fine and her son loves playing with dogs, etc. I cut her off and said, nah, another time, and directed them both towards the other toys, party stuff going on. Less than 5 minutes later, I hear some barking and some screaming from upstairs. I run up to see B crying and his mom yelling at my dog and me. All sorts of accusations were hurled at me, including having a rabid dog, an untrained dog, and she said she was going to ensure my dog was put down. I tried to ask the other kids, my son and his friends, what happened. So it turns out that B and his mother came up on their own, and while my dog was lying in one corner, he decided to go over and start pulling his tail, even though the other kids told him not to. His mother waved them off and allowed B to continue. That resulted in my dog getting up and barking at them as well as growling. I checked B for any injuries and found none. My CCTV recording showed exactly what my son and his friends had described, and there was no contact between my dog and the boy at any point. B's mom brought him to the doctor anyway for a full checkup, no injuries found, and wanted me to compensate for that along with apologizing for the incident. I said no, and she would be lucky if I didn't pursue anything about trespassing into my house's upper floors. So AITA? NTA. Some people are really stupid. At one point, I had a rescue dog who has been abandoned on the street while pregnant and half-starved. I took her in, and after she had puppies, my super came to my apartment to make repairs. I told him that my dog was extremely unfriendly and had puppies. He kept saying, "Dogs love me," and insisted on going to the room where my dog and her puppies were, even though I told him repeatedly to leave her alone. Long story short, when he tried to pet her when she was guarding her puppies, she bit him on the face. He needed stitches, but admitted it was entirely his fault for harassing a nursing mother dog when warned over and over not to go in the room where she and her babies were. You told her to stay away, and any sensible person would have heeded your instructions and not put her kids at risk. She is lucky that she and her kids weren't bitten after abusing the dog. Good thing you had the camera to show what really happened. In the future, you might consider locking the door of the room where your dog is when kids are over. NTA, but please be careful. If your dog just barked at strangers, I wouldn't worry, but a low growl with no bark is usually a precursor of a bite. Dogs have many ways of showing discomfort. Most are subtle, looking away, whale eyes, pinned ears, etc. And when these are consistently disregarded, they start going straight to a growl. The next step is usually a bite. I'd reevaluate whether unsupervised interactions with children are a good idea, and maybe involve a trainer in this decision. I'm saying this based on your post. Maybe you left a lot of important stuff out, or maybe you've already involved a trainer and you know that it's safe. I don't know. But I'm not saying this to attack you or anything, just out of genuine concern in case there's anything in this comment you weren't aware of. You're not TA for not paying for the doctor's visit or not letting other kids upstairs. But you did trigger this situation by allowing your son and his two friends to go upstairs during the party in the first place. First off, it's rude, but it also set up a situation where other kids were interested in going there. If the party is downstairs, that needs to apply to everyone. Your son's close friends can stay late after the party if they want to see the dog. ESH.